Shalom. First and foremost, as always, I love to give all praise, honor, and glory unto Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai. Double honors unto Elder Tahar and the rest of the elders that are firmly pushing this truth. And as always, peace and blessings unto the elect. All right, so this lesson is going to be about Hanukkah or Chaanakah. That's how you would say it in the Hebrew. A Hanukkah would be the English, way of saying Chaanakah, which that means dedication. All right, and that's dealing with the history during the time of the Maccabean period, when the Hasmonean dynasty were fighting against the Greeks, Antiochus Epiphanes IV and the rest of his Grecian army. And you could also find that in the so-called New Testament, or when you read John chapter 10 and verse 22, it says, and this proves the authenticity of the Apocrypha. John 10 and 22, it says, and it was at Jerusalem, the feast of the dedication, which when you go into the word for dedication in Hebrew it is Hanukkah, and it was winter. Now, when you go into it, this shit acting up again. Oh boy, it's lucky, y'all. I was just dealing with this shit earlier, and I restarted the computer. Hold on, let me try to pull it up again. I don't know why it's doing that. This is ultimately Satan. You know what I'm saying? All right. I'm trying to go into the blue letter for it, but as you can see, this is dedication, right? Dedication, and this is the Hebrew word Hanukkah, right? Now, what I was trying to go into was going to tell you in the so-called New Testament, and y'all can do it yourselves, or go on the blue letter and go to John 10 and 22 and go into the word for feast of dedication, and the definition is going to show you the cleansing of the temple during the Maccabean period. That's what it's going to tell you, showing you the authenticity of the Apocrypha, because where are you going to read about that history? You're going to read about that history in the book of Maccabees, which the book of Maccabees is in the Apocrypha. You see? So showing you that the Apocrypha had to be a part of the Bible originally, which is why you see brothers out there, they have the 1611 KJV. That's because at first, when King James was around, he made sure that the Apocrypha was printed with the Old and so-called New Testament. I'm still trying to pull it up so I can show y'all, but this thing is acting retarded. Nothing but Satan hindering. I don't know why my computer is doing this. It's acting a fool. Let me try to refresh it again. And if not, then I would just move on. Just move on with the lesson. So Hanukkah is from tonight, November 17th, 2022 sundown, until the 25th, November 25th, 2022 sundown, which I'm just getting a head start, and jumping on, going into the history of it, showing y'all what was going on, and also showing y'all that the Apocrypha is authentic as well, right? So, like I said again, this lesson is about Hanukkah, which is the Hebrew word Chaanakah, right? This is the Cha, that's the Na, that's the Ka character, and that's the Ha, Chaanakah, which means dedication. And the Levites had to rededicate the temple, had to cleanse the temple because of the Greeks' defilement of the temple, which this was during the time of Antiochus IV Epiphanes, which is also documented in the book of Daniel, the 8th chapter. Daniel, the 8th chapter, goes into it, which Yahweh Tazah, I'm going to go into that as well. Yahweh Tazah, you few brothers and sisters are edified. So I'm going to start at 1 Maccabees 1, and I'm really tempted. I'm going to just start at verse 1. I'm going to start at verse 1. 1 Maccabees 1 and 1. It says, "And it happened after that, Alexander, son of Philip, the Macedonian, who came out of the land of Kittim, and had smitten Darius, king of the Persians and Medes, that he reigned in his stead the first over Greece." That's right. Which Alexander, when you look him up, he was actually Alexander the Third. Let's go into Alexander the Great. He was actually Alexander the Third when you look him up. And he also goes back to the Temenos dynasty, which Teman is one of the descendants of Esau, showing you that he is an Edomite. Right? So, Alexander the Great. Boom, boom, boom. Let me go down. Alright, let's go down here. Let me see. Let me see where I can get it at. Where it says that he descended from the Temenos dynasty. Let me see. Now, this is all off the hip too, so bear with me. Okay. So you see how it says Alexander the Great, also known as Alexander the Third. You see that? Also known as Alexander the Third, or Alexander of Macedonia. So I'm trying to get where it says that he descended from the Temenos dynasty, which proves that Esau would have to be the so-called white man. This is important history to know. Why? Because this is a part of our history. If I'm just type it in. Just type it. Alexander the Great. Temenos dynasty. See what pops up. Yep, Temenos. Yep. Whew. See that? Temenos. It says Temenos was a great-great-grandson of Hercules and helped lead the fifth and final attack of blah, blah, blah. Now it says, look, man, this is fire. It says this guy, Chaanakah, was the first king of the ancient Greek kingdom of Macedonia and founder of the royal Macedonian dynasty, the Temenid or Argead dynasty, which culminated in the sons of Alexander the Great 5 centuries later. And where do you think this word came from? Temenos. That comes from Teman. Alexander is a Temanite, which goes back to Esau. Let's go ahead and grab it. Which shows that the so-called white man would have to be Esau. This is not a coincidence. Alright, just waiting for this thing to load. Man, Esau is really, or Satan is really on the road today. Hold on, let me try to get closer to my Wi-Fi box. That's what I'm going to try and do. Because I'm not... Why all of a sudden now, my this thing is not working to its full capacity. Hey, we know why. You know, we fight not against flesh and blood, but these different spirits, man. You know, don't want edification to go out. You know, if you're spiritual, you'll understand. All right. Let me try to refresh it. And this is one of the newest laptops too. So I'm not sure why it's even acting like this. Alright, boom. Teaming. So Genesis 36 and 11, right? Which is dealing with Esau. Genesis 36 and 1. It says, now these are the generation of Esau, who's Edom. So now we have the context of what's going on here. This is dealing with the genealogy of Esau. Esau and his descendants. So verse 9. And these are the generations of Esau, the father of the Edomites in Mount Seir. These are the names of Esau's son. Eliphaz, the son of Adah, the wife of Esau. Ruel, the son of Bashemath, the wife of Esau. And the sons of Eliphaz were Teman. So Teman is the grandson of Esau. Omar, Jepo, and Gatem, and Kenaz. You see that? So Teman is a grandson of Esau. Oh yeah, this is good right here. Yep, this is a great, incredible sight right here. Cause you know, I don't like using Wikipedia either. But sometimes if I have to just to get a quick fact, I will. So it says, like all ancient kings, Alexander claimed that the gods were his ancestors. Alexander, in the 5th century, the Macedonian kings said that they descended from Paradus, who descended from Temenos. Temenos. See that? Temenos dynasty. Look at that. It's the same thing. Temenos. Just another way of saying Teman. Alright? So this proves that he has to be an Edomite. Boom. So, what do we learn here? Alexander the Great is really Alexander the Third. And also, he is a part of he descends from the Temenos dynasty. Right? So now let's go back to First Maccabees. First Maccabees 1 and verse 1. And it happened after that, Alexander, son of Philip, the Macedonian, who came out of the land of Kittim, had smitten Darius, king of the Persians and Medes, that he reigned in his stead the first over Greece. And this was a prophecy that was fulfilled long ago. We're going to go to a few precepts. We're going to go to Daniel, the 2nd chapter. Then we're going to jump to Daniel, the 7th chapter. And then we're going to jump to Daniel, the 8th chapter. So this might be a long lesson. So I already know our people's attention span is not real good. So this is going to be a long lesson. So this is Daniel 2 and 31. This is dealing with the statue of Nebuchadnezzar. All right, this was a part of his dream. So Daniel 2 and 31 says, Thou, O king, sawest, and behold, a great image. The great image, whose brightness was excellent, stood before thee, and the form thereof was terrible. The image head was of fine gold, and that's dealing with the Babylonian Empire. The Babylonian Empire. Matter of fact, just to prove it real fast, let's scroll down. Jumping down to verse 36. This is the dream, and we would tell the interpretation thereof before the king. Thou, O king, art a king of kings, for the power of heaven hath given thee a kingdom, power, and strength, and glory. And wheresoever the children of men dwell, the beasts of the field and the fowls of the heaven hath he given thine hand, and hath made thee ruler over them all. Thou art this head of gold. See that? So Daniel told Nebuchadnezzar, you art the head of gold. Why? Because the Babylonian Empire was the finest. And when you read this, it goes from gold, then it goes from silver, then it goes to brass, and then it goes to iron. Which gold and silver, those are the finest. But those metals are weak. It's not as strong. As you keep going down, the metals just keep getting stronger and stronger. Verse 39, and after thee shall arise another kingdom inferior to thee, which is dealing with the Medo-Persian Empire. Jumping back up to verse 32. It says the image head was of fine gold. So now we know that the image head of fine gold was dealing with the Babylonian Empire, right? The Neo-Babylonian Empire. His breast and his arms of silver, dealing with the Medo-Persians. His belly and thighs of brass, dealing with the Greeks. Now the metals is getting stronger. The metals are getting stronger because the Greeks was a real strong army. Then it says his legs of iron, which, take a guess, that's Rome. Rome was a real strong empire. His feet part of iron and part of clay. And this is dealing with where we're at right now. The system that we're in right now. Alright, the NATO and EU. This is where we're at. We're at the feet. So in prophecy, we're at the feet of this image. See that? So the Greeks and the Persians was prophesied in Daniel. Are the breasts and his arms of silver? That's dealing with the Medes and Persians. And then after that, the belly of thighs and brass conquered the breasts of arms, his breasts and his arms of silver. And that's dealing with Darius going up against Alexander. So now let's get Daniel 7. Hopefully y'all catch on. Hopefully y'all understand that. So now this is Daniel chapter 7 and verse, just skipping to the point here. Daniel chapter 7 and verse 5. It says, and behold, another beast, a second like to a bear, and it raised up itself on one side. Meaning, why? Why did it say the bear raised up itself on one side? That's because the Persians eventually overcame the Medes. The Persians was stronger than the Medes. Although there were one joint empire, the Persian army was stronger. And it says, and it had 3 ribs in the mouth of it, between the teeth of it, and that's dealing with the lands, the important lands that they conquered, which would be Libya, Babylon, and Egypt. And they said thus unto it, arise, devour much flesh. Verse 6. And after this I beheld, and lo, another like a leopard. And this is dealing with Alexander, because Alexander, he used to wear a leopard coat over his horse. Let's go into it. Alex. Slagia, you know, like I said, I woke up and then I knew that the feast of dedication was here. So this is really just all off the top right here. I didn't write nothing down. Hey, but you see that? See? This is Alexander. This is Alexander Great, and he got that leopard. Got that leopard on his horse. See? See that? Boom. Reading on. Back to Daniel 7 and verse 6. It says, after this I beheld, and lo, another like a leopard, which represents Alexander, which had upon the back of it 4 wings of a fowl. The beast also had 4 heads, and dominion was given to it. And the beast had also 4 heads. It's dealing with Alexander's main generals, which is Cassandra, Ptolemy, Seleucid, and Lacemaeus. Those were Alexander's 4 main generals, and he imparted his kingdom unto them during the time when he was dying, which we're going to read it. Back to 1 Maccabees chapter 1. Yeah, and I'm gonna jump down real quick so I can read it, and then I'm gonna have to jump to Daniel 8. Jumping down to verse 6, 1 Maccabees 1 to 6. Wherefore he called his servants, such as were honorable, and had been brought up with him from his youth, and parted his kingdom among them, while he was yet alive. You see that? So right before he he called his honorable servants, his honorable generals, that he grew up with, and imparted his kingdom unto them. So Alexander reigned 12 years, and then he died. See that? So the Heavenly Father had him. Hey, the Heavenly Father had him conquer a lot of land during his reign, really fast too, showing you how dominant that devil was. All right, so now jump into Daniel chapter 8. Daniel chapter 8, verse 1. It says, in the 3rd year of the reign of King Belshazzar, a vision appeared unto me, even unto me Daniel, after that which appeared unto me at the first. And I saw in the vision, it came to pass, when I saw that I was at Shushan, in the palace, which is in the province of Elam. And I saw in the vision, and I was by the river of Uliah. Verse 3. Then I lifted up my eyes and saw, and behold, there stood before the river a ram, which had 2 horns, and that ram represents the Medo-Persian Empire, or the Persian Mede Empire, which is called the Achaemenid Empire. Like, let's go back to here. When you read up on Alexander, right, it says Alexander the Great, the Macedonian king, who defeated his Persian colleague Darius III Cardomanus and conquered the Achaemenid Empire. See that? The Achaemenid Empire, which is the Medo-Persian Empire. See? Origins. According to the official story, the Achaemenid or Persian Empire was founded by Cyrus, who became king of Persis and defeated his overlord Astyages and Media. You see that? And that's why it says in the bear that one came up higher, because ultimately Cyrus overtook Astyages of the Medes. You see that? Oh, see that right here? And then Cyrus added Lydia. Oh, if I said Libya, Salakia, I meant Lydia. All right, Lydia, Babylon, and Egypt. Those are the three. Let me go back to it real fast. Salakia, y'all. Verse 5. Yeah, the 3 ribs. Yeah, the 3 ribs in the mouth is Lydia, Babylon, and Egypt. Lydia, Babylon. If I said Libya, Salakia, scratch that. It's Lydia. That's what I meant to say. Yup. I'm going to read it again. Daniel 7:5. And behold, another beast, a second like to a bear, and it raised up itself on one side. Why did it raise up itself on one side? Because eventually the Persians overcame the Medes. And it had 3 ribs in the mouth of it, between the teeth of it. And they said thus unto it, arise, devour much flesh. And that's what the empire was doing at that time, devouring much flesh, taking over people's lands. So it says Cyrus added Lydia, right? And then he captured the city of Babylon. You see that? Lydia, Babylon, and Egypt. See that? Goes right along with the history. See that? And which shows you the authenticity of the scriptures as well. This shows you that the scriptures are on point. The scriptures are on point. See how matching the prophecies right along with secular history. The scriptures are on point. So people say, oh yeah, the Bible ain't real. You can't prove that the Bible is real, X, Y, and Z. Hey, these people don't know what they're talking about. So now let's go back to Daniel 8. So Daniel 8:3 says, then I lifted up my eyes and saw, and behold, there stood before the river a ram which had 2 horns, which the 2 horns represents the Persians and the Medes. And the 2 horns were high. The 2 horns were high, but one was higher than the other, and the higher came up last, which is dealing with the Persians. Let's see what the NLT say. Never really read these scriptures, these in the NLT. It says, and as I look up, I saw a ram with 2 long horns standing beside the river. One of the horns was longer than the other, even though it had grown later than the other one. Yup, which is dealing with the Persians. That is dealing with the Persians. Why? Because I'm going to echo it again. Because eventually the Persians overcame the Medes. Verse 4. I saw the ram pushing westward and northward and southward, so that no beast might stand before him, which that ram represents the kingdom as a whole, right? Neither was there any that could deliver out of his hand, but he did according to his will and became great, showing you that this was a great kingdom, a great and powerful kingdom. Verse 5. And I was considering, behold, an he-goat from the west on the face of the whole earth, and touched not the ground. And the goat had a notable horn between its eyes, which this represents the Grecian Empire, and that notable horn between its eyes is dealing with Alexander. And he came to the ram that had two horns, which I had seen standing before the river, and ran into him in the fury of his power. So this is now Alexander, along with his Grecian army, going to war with the ram, the Medo-Persian Empire. Verse 7, and I saw him come close unto the ram, and he was moved with choler against him, meaning anger, and smote the ram, and brake his two horns. Yeah, now he's out of power. And there was no power in the ram, yep, see that, to stand before him. But he cast him down to the ground, and stamped upon him. And there was none that could deliver the ram out of his hand. See that? Which goes right with 1 Maccabees 1 and verse 1 again. It says, and it happened after that, Alexander, son of Philip, the Macedonian, who came out of the land of Kittim, had smitten Darius, king of the Persians and the Medes. And he reigned in his stead, the first over Greece. You see that? That goes right with Daniel 8. Well, so how could we know this? How could we possibly know this if the Apocrypha is not valid? See that? This shows that the Apocrypha is valid. Because there goes the history right there. It's like it was checking my text messages. Verse 8 now. It says, therefore the he-goat waxed very great, and he was strong. Let's read 1 Maccabees. Let's go back to it. 1 Maccabees 1 and 2. And made many wars, and won many strongholds, and slew the kings of the earth. The he-goat waxed strong. Super strong. See that? That's him waxing strong. Verse 3. And went through to the ends of the earth, and took spoils of many nations, insomuch that the earth was quiet before him. Whereupon he was exalted, and his heart was lifted up. That's how Esau get proud. And he gathered a mighty strong host, and ruled over countries and nations and kings, who became tributaries unto him. See? Let's read that again. Daniel 8 and 8. Therefore the he-goat waxed very strong. See that? Other kings of the other nations were being tributaries unto him, just going around conquering. And when he was strong, the great horn was broken. And when he reached his climax, he got sick. Now they said that he might have died of syphilis, because Alexander was dibbling and dabbling, if you know what I mean. And for it came up four notable ones toward the four winds of heaven, which is dealing with his four generals, his four main generals, which I named, which I'll name it again. Matter of fact, let me go ahead and get a picture of it. All right. So you see. So y'all could, if y'all want to, you brothers should, or you brothers out there, you should screenshot this, right? Keep this, right? See that? So you got Seleucus, right? You got Ptolemy, you got Cassandra, and you have Lacemaeus, and they were ruling, different areas. See? So you brothers should screenshot this and keep this, so that y'all can know it. See that? They got Daniel 11 right here. Yeah, man, that's quite interesting how they have scriptures here. Yeah, they don't have Daniel 8 here because they believe Daniel 8 is talking about the Antichrist. They believe Daniel 8 is future prophecy. Daniel 8 done already came to pass a long time ago. Alright, so boom. So now we're at the little horn, which I touched on briefly yesterday at the altar. So now let's continue on to 1 Maccabees 1. 1 Maccabees chapter 1. Hold on, I have to get my charger. Alright, just bear with me one moment. Let's plug this up. Boom. Alright, boom, we rocking and rolling. Okay, so now let's keep reading in 1 Maccabees now. And this is history that you brothers need to know. Hey, look, you brothers need to know this. So back to 1 Maccabees chapter 1 and verse 7 now. It says, so Alexander reigned 12 years and then died, and his servants bare rule everyone in his place. And after his death, they all put crowns upon themselves. So did their sons after them many years. Evils were multiplied in the earth. Verse 10. And there came out of them a wicked root, Antiochus, surnamed Epiphanes, son of Antiochus or Antiochus the king, who had been a hostage at Rome. And he reigned in the 137th year of the kingdom of the Greeks. So now it says there came out of that, and there came out of them a wicked root. Out of who? Out of Alexander's 4 generals. And out of Alexander's 4 generals, who was that? It was Seleucid. Antiochus Epiphanes comes out of the Seleucid line. Let's go ahead and look it up. Let me see how you spell this double name. Okay. Which I believe Epiphanes means God manifests on earth. So this double thing thought that he was God, which of course Epiphanes. Okay. All right, well, see that? It shows you that right there. Antiochus the 4th Epiphanes. Dynasty, Seleucid. So he comes from the Seleucid line. So let's read it again. 1 Maccabees 1-10. There came out of them, which was Seleucid, a wicked root, Antiochus, surnamed Epiphanes. So now let's go back to Daniel 8. Daniel 8 and verse 9. It says, and out of one of them came forth a little horn. Out of one of who? Out of the 4 notable ones. See? Goes right with each other. And out of one of them came forth a little horn, which waxed exceeding great toward the south and toward the east and toward the pleasant land. See that? Which is dealing with Antiochus, which he came from the Seleucid dynasty. See? And the oppression of the Israelites, now we're transitioning into the feast of dedication. What was going on? The wars. Now we're maybe because it's a backstory. Had to go through the backstory, right, to get to the main story. So now we're going into the main story, right? So the oppression of the Israelites didn't start until this devil came up into power. Alexander the Great, he didn't touch us. Alexander the Third, he didn't touch us. It wasn't until Antiochus came up into power, and then the oppression of the southern kingdom started. Oh yeah, and I had to state that too. This is about the southern kingdom. Northern kingdom was already over here in America by this time. Now, of course, you had remnants, but this was mainly the southern kingdom. Okay. So now we know about this now. So now let's jump. Now let's jump around. Now we're going to jump down. Okay, boom. So now we're going to jump down to 1 Maccabees chapter 1 and verse 20. All right, we're going to start here, right? But let me go ahead and read some more of Daniel 8. Daniel 8 and verse 10 now it says, "And it waxed great, even to the host of heaven. And it cast down some of the hosts and of the stars to the ground and stamped upon them." Dealing with who? Us, Israel. It says, "Yea, he magnified himself even to the prince of the hosts. And by him the daily sacrifice was taken away. And the place of his sanctuary was cast down." See that? So now this is dealing with our temple. Our temple was destroyed. Our temple was defiled. This is him. This is talking about the little horn, Antiochus defiling our temple. Verse 12, "And the host was given him against the daily sacrifice by reason of transgression. And they cast down the truth to the ground and practiced, and it prospered." Let's read it. Let's see what it say in the NOT. Daniel 8 and verse 9 and NOT. It says, Then from one of the prominent horns came a small horn, whose power grew very great. It extended toward the south and the east, and toward the glorious land of Israel," which that's what we're going to read. Because after he done conquered Egypt, what it says in 1 Maccabees 1 and 20, "And after that Antiochus had smitten Egypt, he returned again in the 143rd year, and went up against Israel and Jerusalem with a great multitude." So after he was done conquering everybody else, he said, "All right, we're gonna go to Israel next." See, verse 10, "Its power reached to the heavens, where it attacked the heavenly army, throwing some of the heavenly beings and some of the stars to the ground, trampling them." Now we know, that this ain't talking about the angels. He was tossing around Michael, Gabriel, Raphael. All right, this is dealing with us. Verse 11, and we're going to read it. "It even challenged the commander of heaven's armies by canceling the daily sacrifice offered to him and by destroying his temple." You see that? The army of heaven was restrained from responding to this rebellion. So the daily sacrifice was halted and the truth was overthrown. The horn succeeded in everything it did. You see that? Dealing with the defilement and the taking away of our temple, or of us sacrificing to the Lord. And you know what also came with that? He outlawed us from professing to be an Israelite or a Jew. So this is when the Hellenization period started. So now when you read in the so-called New Testament, there's neither Jew nor Greek. That's dealing with Israelites that strayed away from their heritage because of Alexander, because of fear. Fear fell upon our people because he was killing our people, not killing them, murdering our people. He was murdering our people. And he declared that, look, all y'all need to consent to what I got going on. And you know, our people are so simple. Our people love to do evil. Our people need that go to do wickedness, and they will do it. It's real enticing for our people to be wicked. And our people was down with it. And they left their laws, they left their culture and got down with the Greeks. So now, by the time they have children and their children's children, they done long gone forgot about being an Israelite. They think that they're a Greek now. See that? Now, my woman, she was just watching this movie. She was just watching this movie last night, which I caught like the latter end of it. And it was, and from what I saw, the latter end of it was good. It was real good. And I believe it's called A Jazz Man's Blues. I believe that's what it's called. Let me go ahead and look it up real fast. A Jazz Man's Blues. Right, it's on Netflix. And basically, she was, them two, they were the stars. They were the stars of the show. So basically, just to sum it up, because it relates to the topic at hand, her mom wanted to be an Edomite. So what her mom, and because in the movie she could pass for an Edomite, she took her from him because they were dealing with each other at first, but her mom was like super racist against her own people, which is Jake, and they moved, and her mom married her daughter into an Edomite family, but the daughter wasn't with it the whole time. But let's just say that the daughter was with it the whole time. Let's just say that. Let's just say that her daughter was with it the whole entire time. Her children would have never known about their so-called black side. Why is that? Because she got engulfed in the ways of Esau. But in the movie that didn't happen. But that's just for an example. You see that? So now, oh yeah, let me keep going in Maccabees now. So back to First Maccabees 1 and verse 20, it says, "And after that Antiochus had smitten Egypt, he returned again in the 143rd year and went up against Israel and Jerusalem with a great multitude, and entered proudly into the sanctuary, took away the golden altar and the candlestick of light and all the vessels thereof. Now he's defiling our temple, and the table of the shewbread, which that's what the Levites ate, and the pouring vessels and the vials, and the censers of gold, and the veil, and the crown, and the golden ornaments that were before the temple, all which he pulled off. He took also the silver and gold and the precious vessels. Also he took the hidden treasures which he found. And when he had taken all away, he went into his own land, having made a great massacre, and spoken very proudly. Therefore there was a great mourning in Israel in every place where there were." See that? Man, this was a terrible time. A terrible time for our people. Real terrible. Jumping down. Like I said, I'm going to be hopping around. If you really want to know in depth what's going on, you read this for yourself, which I'm going in depth, but I'm not going to read every single verse though. Right? Jump down to verse 30. It says, "And spake peaceable words unto them, but all was deceit." Maybe I got to jump up. Verse 29. "And after 2 years fully expired, the king sent his chief collector of tribute unto the cities of Judah, who came into Jerusalem with a great multitude, and spake peaceable words unto them, but all was deceit. The words of his mouth were smoother than butter, but war was in his heart. For when they had given him credence, he fell suddenly upon the city," meaning what? Start destroying stuff, "and smote it very sore, and destroyed much people of Israel." See, man, our people was always victim to the sweet words of Esau. Always. Always, always, always. Verse 31. "And when he had taken the spoils of the city, he set it on fire, and pulled down the houses and the walls thereof on every side. But the women and children took they captive, and possessed the cattle." And what do you think they did with the woman? What do you think? That's why the table is going to be turned on you, devil. Verse 33. "Then builded they the city of David with a great and strong wall, and with mighty towers, and made it a stronghold for them. And they put therein a sinful nation, wicked men, and fortified themselves thereof. They sworded it also with armor and victuals. And when they had gathered together spoils of Jerusalem, they laid them up there, and so they became a sore snare. So it was a place to lie in wait against the sanctuary, and an evil adversary to Israel. Thus they shed innocent blood on every side of the sanctuary, and defiled it. See that? So our sanctuary was defiled. So now jumping down to verse 41, it says, moreover, King Antiochus wrote to his whole kingdom that all should be one people, and that everyone should leave his laws, so that the heathen agreed according to the commandment of the king. Yea, many also of the Israelites consented to his religion, and sacrificed unto idols, and profaned the Sabbath. So now this is the beginning of us losing our nationality. Verse 44, and the king has sent letters by messengers into Jerusalem and the cities of Judah, that they should follow the strange laws of the land, and forbid burnt offerings and sacrifice and drink offerings in the temple, and that they should profane the Sabbath and festival days, and pollute the sanctuary and holy people, set up altars and groves and chapels of idols, and sacrifice swine's flesh and unclean beasts. And they were sacrificing swine's flesh. And back then, man, pork, listen, pork was an abomination to our people. Not now, though. Verse 48, that they should also leave their children uncircumcised, and make their souls abominable with all manner of uncleanness and profanation, to the end they might forget the law and change all the ordinances. You see that? And that's what happened. That's why in the so-called New Testament, Yahweh sent out Peter, Paul, and the rest of the apostles, mainly Paul, to teach to the so-called Gentiles, which were Israelites, because they forgot about their heritage, they forgot about their culture. Verse 50, and whosoever would not do according to the commandment of the king, he said he should die. And what you think happened? You know, our people think, I ain't trying to die. So they got down with it naturally. And then they had children. Their children had children. Then their children have children. And that generation of children, that descendants, they long gone didn't know about being an Israelite anymore. That was out. What they knew was being a Greek because of this devil. And I hope this all makes sense. Verse 52. It says, then many of the people were gathered unto them, to wit, everyone that forsook the law, and so they committed evils in the land. So now this is the beginning. Oh, matter of fact, I gotta keep going. Verse 55. It says, and burnt, well, verse 54. It says, now the 15th day of the month Caslu, in the 145th year, they set up the abomination of desolation upon the altar, and build idol altars throughout the cities of Judah on every side. So in our cities, it was nothing but idols, altars of idols, and burnt incense at the doors of their houses and in the streets. And when they had written in pieces the book of the law, and they tore up our law, which they found, they burnt them with fire and burnt it up. And whosoever was found with it says, and whosoever was found with any the book of the testament, or if any committed to the law, the king's commandment was that they should put him to death. And that's what they're going to do again. Are they going to do that again? Are they going to try and put some of us to death? But hey, look, devil, you ain't going to prosper. Verse 58, thus did they by their authority unto the Israelites every month, to as many as were found in the city. So they will come back every single month to make sure that there weren't any Israelites, practicing being an Israelite, practicing being a Jew every month. So you already know our people was, moving like pilgrims on the earth. And that's eventually what's going to come again. Hey, but have no fear, Yahweh Shai is going to be there. So verse 59, it says, now the 25th day of the month, they did sacrifice upon the idol altar which was upon the altar of the Most High, at the time which according to the commandment they put to death certain women that had caused their children to be circumcised. And this is when our women had integrity. And they hanged the infants about their necks, lynchings, and rifled their houses and slew them that had circumcised them, which shows you that this devil is a damn homo. He was literally looking at, our babies' rods to see if they were circumcised. That's how deep it was, devil. Yeah, all right. So now in First Maccabees, the first chapter, we see that our temple was defiled, Israel was thrown down, which this goes right with Daniel, the 8th chapter. So now we're going to go back to Daniel 8, and I'm going to be wrapping up. Just going to read a few more verses in Daniel 8 and then jump to First Maccabees, the 4th chapter, because that's when the Feast of Dedication or Hanukkah comes in, right? Slacky, y'all. It took a while to get there, but this ain't just something that can just be summed up, So back to Daniel 8 now, and verse 13. It says, "Then I heard one saint speaking, and another saint said unto that certain saint which spake, How long shall be the vision concerning the daily sacrifice and the transgression of desolation, to give both the sanctuary and the host to be trodden down underfoot?" So basically, how long is the temple going to be down for? How long is the temple going to be defiled for? Essentially. And he said unto me, unto 2,300 days, then shall the sanctuary be cleansed. So around the time of 6 to 7 years, then the temple or the sanctuary is going to be cleansed again. And that 6 to 7 years is fast forwarding the First Maccabees, the 4th chapter. Let's go ahead and grab it. All right. That's when Judas Maccabeus and his brothers rose up against these devils and started fighting against these devils. And won. Put their asses to flight. And this is the spirit that we got to be in. Or we got to be in the spirit of the Maccabees. So now, First Maccabees 4, and I'm sorry, verse 36. Like I said, if you want to get the full scope, the full story, y'all have to go read it. I'll be here for 2 hours. First Maccabees 4 and 36. Then said Judas and his brethren, Behold, our enemies are discomfited. Let us go up to cleanse and dedicate the sanctuary. See that? Let us go up to cleanse and dedicate the sanctuary, which in Hebrew would be Chaanakah. Okay? So now when you read, hopefully this works now. When you read John 10 and 22, this feast of dedication that Yahushua was celebrating was about the dedication during the Maccabean period. Beautiful. The water Yahweh Bashim Yahushua. See? Dedication, consecration. In particular, the annual feast celebrated 8 days, beginning in the 25th of whatever the hell this says. It means middle of our December. Instituted by Judas Maccabeus, which Maccabeus goes back to the Hebrew word ma-kwabath, which means hammer. And he was putting a hammer on them devils. And in memory of the cleansing of the temple from the pollution of Antiochus Epiphanes. See that? It tells you that in the blue letter. Alright, so that's what Yahushua was celebrating. So for you Christians, specifically Vocab Malone, is the Maccabean period fake? See? Devils don't know. So going back, it says, First Maccabees 4:36. Then said Judas and his brethren, Behold, our enemies. Now this is 6 to 7 years later now. So this was a long war. Then said Judas and his brethren, Behold, our enemies are discomfited. Let us go up to cleanse and dedicate the sanctuary. Upon this, all the hosts assembled together, and went up into Mount Zion. And when they saw the sanctuary desolate, and the altar profane, and the gates burned up, and shrubs growing in the courts as in the forest, or in one of the mountains, yea, and the priest's chambers pulled down, they rent their clothes and made great lamentation, and cast ashes upon their heads. And the Hasmonean dynasty, there were Levites, or they were descendants of priests. So that's why I really hit them too, because you know they're Levites, Jumping down to verse 41. Then Judas appointed certain men to fight against those that were in the fortress until he had cleansed the sanctuary. So he chose priests of blameless conversation, such as had pleasure in the law. Yeah, because you had a lot of wicked ass Levites around that time, who cleansed the sanctuary and bare out the defiled stones into an unclean place. And when, as they consulted what to do with the altar of burnt offerings, which was profane, they thought it best to pull it down, lest it should be a reproach to them, because the heathen had defiled it. Wherefore they pulled it down, and laid up the stones in the mountain of the temple in a convenient place, until there should come a prophet to show what should be done with them. Then they took whole stones according to the law, and built a new altar according to the former, and made up the sanctuary and the things that were within the temple, and hollowed the courts. They made also new holy vessels, and into the temple they brought the candlestick and the altar of burnt offerings and of incense and the table. So you see that? So now they're fixing up everything. They're fixing everything up now. So now jumping down to verse 55. It says, Then all the people fell upon their faces, worshiping and praising the Most High, the power of heaven, who had given them good success. And so they kept the dedication of the altar 8 days, and offered burnt offerings with gladness, and sacrificed the sacrifice of deliverance and praise. Alright, so you see that? So that is, verse 59. It says, Moreover, Judas and his brethren with the whole congregation of Israel ordained that the days of the dedication of the altar should be kept in their season from year to year, by the space of 8 days, from the 25th day of the month Caslu, with mirth and gladness. You see that? So this is where the feast of dedication comes from. This was put in place. This was set up by Judas Maccabeus, rejoicing that we defeated those devils, and rededicated the altar to the Lord, to the Most High. All right, so that's Hanukkah. That's Chaanakah. All right, that's where it came from. It's valid. It's authentic. And it goes right with the scriptures. All right, so Yahweh Tazah, you few brothers and sisters. And if anybody have video topics, that they may want me to go over, man, you can always comment them. I'm not one of those guys who yell at you for asking questions on a comment board, as long as it ain't retarded. But whatever you got, you can ask, and Yahweh Tazah can go into it. So with that being said, Shalom.